Good morning. I happen to have few videos that I posted which kind of connect the various elements together. And it's not going to be easy, but I want to share it if you don't mind. The reason is it's very important, and of course 1 minute is too short, so I don't know how long it take, but let me try. The first video I talked about the pain or the suffering. In the video I said pain is necessary to live because it's like a feedback system to know where you can go. For that we have to do the best, but not be afraid. So that's a basic principle, easy to say and practice. And related to that, how we practice, I had another video talking about my dealing with the health related problem that just happened the day before yesterday and continued to have the place yesterday. So I posted the video that I went through certain sequence of event practicing what I've been talking, like use the brain, listen to your heart, live with your mission, be in the now, don't be afraid, pain is suffering. So I had some suffering that I had to go through related to the health. So it's a dynamic situation. It's like a case study of how I could manage. It turned out to be a very interesting story for me. So I posted for the sake of me to remember. So that's another thing. And prior to those two videos, I was talking about thyself every day. Die, self, ego. Bring no mind, empty-mindedness, and have awareness of what's really is happening, which I believe would bring out the wisdom. And that connects to the idea like a Shila Samadhi Panya, you do the right thing, and something happens, like in this case, and then you listen to your heart or with a calm and quiet mind, so that you connect to the heart, instead of just figuring out things in the brain or the mind. But you have the whole me, mind and body, heart, everything combined. And not necessarily me driving, but sort of like a will of the universe to drive my will of making the right decision and how to make it work has to be aligned to the way the universe is functioning. So Shila Samadhi Panya is one way to explain it, and I've talked about it in many ways. So at the end, how to have those consolidated and be able to capture and to have this video, that's the whole idea. And the one easy way is to realize few things. One is, as I have said, use the brain, listen to your heart. And I talked about go back to the Garden of Eden to point that knowledge, eating the fruit of knowledge, and we go through this out of the garden experience, being a human with a brain and do this the best. And that's who we are, as I see it. But it's good to get back to the root of who we are. So I use the term that Christian people, because I'm using English and this is Buddhist original thinking and Eastern, but trying to combine to go beyond the barrier so that we can still communicate and relate to each other. So in terms of the Christianity, well, that makes sense. Let's go back to the root of who we are. Go back to the Garden of Eden. No knowledge. Knowledge is okay in the mind, but leave it alone. Be aware in this moment. No mind. Be aware in the moment. And then it's like I mentioned about human brain, computer and other, to connect to the root or the heart. The Shila Samadhi Panya point that you connect to the heart in the sense of that access to the heart will generate the wisdom or compassion. That's a very important point. And I mentioned vipassana and meditation Even without sitting, you can practice. I talked about all this subject. So how I practiced, and that's the point I mentioned about health-related issues that spent 25 minutes, kind of long for me to go through it, but that I felt is very important to have the dynamic sense of how I could navigate when the information is not perfect, and I may react and see how I react, how to connect to my root, and then search for answer using the brain, not just being in the garden. So you come back to the human society, because we have internet and all the information. Even ChatGPT may be part of my description. I can talk how I process this, because those are tools that we can use. So after, I don't know, maybe 18 hours of some ups and downs, because I had some jolted feeling, a little painful sense, but came up with very interesting results. So that's the video I talked about, this 25 minutes, how I dealt with the health-related problem, that you may be able to see from my description, that you can check if you want to. So that's the point of knowing is not the whole. You have to be doing. Walk the talk, I guess, is the explanation. And what I realized is that I could use the brain and listen to the heart to the point of coming up with the insight, Sila Samadhi Panya, but going dynamic situation, not just one step and get to the wisdom. I try this, come up with this answer, so it's dynamic. And I've even mentioned about the PDCA plan to check the problem-solving process, or the new idea that I captured, that OODA, observe, orient, decide, and act. Kind of a modified PDCA or CAPD, I call it, starting from check, that you can implement. So that's what I did in that case of the health-related issue. Again, I'm not going to go into it. So that tells me to see how it went through. And I posted those videos. And I'm then summarizing the whole thing, that going back to one of the book I mentioned about use the brain, use the mind. And the Dalai Lama mentioned to my book by saying, not just listening. While you use the brain, you listen to your heart. That was his comment. Easy to say, how you practice it. I don't know if you get the idea. And it's not easy to use the brain and have the heart connected at the same time. It's easy to go up here and here. Even that may not be easy if you're just always confined in the mind and don't know the existence or a connection to the heart. Even concept you understand, but what it means in the reality. So that's the dynamic process, that it's like how to swim, not just listening and trying and coming back and reflecting and sharing, and it takes time. So this is then 1 day or less time period I figured out how to process. So please take a look at it and see if you can relate to, because I think that capture all those points that I shared in that case. So what I can conclude in this is, again, we want to avoid the pain, but pain is necessary, not easy. I had the awakening experience, somewhat similar to Eckhart Tolle. He had lots of suffering, almost wanting to kill himself, suicide, but he came out with awakening, wrote the books and all the great stories. I watched his video, many of them. In my case, I had the pain. In Vipassana, I shared that experience, this 10-day meditation and sitting almost 12 hours every day, and I couldn't stand the pain. So, but 8th day in the afternoon, I figured out, or I didn't. I let the energy of the universe to prevail, is because I got the limitation, but I saw that there's a limitation. I opened up, and that exploded the unknown potential that was suppressed beyond the mind constraint came about. Therefore, also the book I wrote and the forward, the book's title, Results from the Heart. Not just the results from the brain. And not just the brain understanding, but acting on understanding. And if there's no verification, no point. So life is pain. But somewhere I mentioned about Hermann Hesse. And he had a connection with the Buddhist teaching. I may not be able to pick up the right wording, but what he said, I'll put it in the description. Please look at it if you're interested. He says something like, enjoy the suffering. Don't flee from suffering. Or something like that. To be, I don't know what his word was, to be enlightened. Find the way. So again, to live, as Buddha said, life is suffering. Natural to avoid, but accept that as the truth. That's one of the wisdom. Life is suffering. Second main point, again, I put this somewhere in the video. Fourth principle of wisdom, or some such title, I don't remember. But the second one is life is suffering. Everything is impermanent. There's no self. And if you read nirvana, enlightenment, peace. So this is sort of like summarization. Just happened. I really want to confirm this. By talking, I'm confirming that I also know it doesn't mean anything if I cannot practice. So I have to repeat this. If I'm conveying the message, that's good. I'm conveying message to myself, me for myself. And possibly the whole society going through lots of pains, and accept, move on. But I hope I will move on in my life, die self every day, live to die and die to live, even each breathing. Empty your mind. Waku-waku, connection, aliveness, transparency, all that stuff may be very nebulous when you hear it, because it's my way of explanation. But I'm hoping that that has some value, or it's no value at the end, it's emptiness, but value in terms of going through the suffering. And like Hermann Hesse, I read most of his book when I was 16, 17, somewhere around there. It's just wonderful to reconnect to his message after 60 years almost. I don't know if I can say enjoy suffering, but it's kind of like that. You have a stance to observe the suffering, not as you see it in your mind and find the constraint, but you are beyond that. And from that comes the wisdom. It may not come, but that's what we can do. So, thank you for listening. You came to the point. That's all I can say. I hope I did my best, and I hope I keep practicing and share my journey with you.